But according to an IPSOS poll, more than 54% of South Africans feel the governing party's future is uncertain due to leadership issues. The poll, which sampled more than 3,000 people, was conducted between May and June this year. There's at least some good news for the president, with many rating him highly as a political leader. Well, IPSOS South Africa's director, Mary Harris, joins us now. Good evening, Mary. Thank you very much for your time. Growing support among South Africans overall for Cyril Ramaphosa, but did the respondents say why? Or is it a case of, well, he can't be worse than Jacob Zuma?
No, I don't think it is a case of that he can't be worse than Jacob Zuma. We looked at quite a number of things, and over the last few years it actually became evident that people were looking for something different in a leader than what we had in Jacob Zuma. And you and I have spoken quite a few times on ENCA about the ratings of President Jacob Zuma, and especially the low ratings that he has received over the last 2 years.
Even within his own party.
Even within his own party, that is very true. So obviously the first test for a political leader is to do well within your own party. But for a political leader then, it's also to do well within other parties, because you want to attract support from other parties. And if you can't get them to vote for your party, at least they must support you as a leader. And I think that is what President Ramaphosa is getting right. But unfortunately, it seems as if he doesn't know that yet, because he's at the moment playing almost the ball to all sides, and a lot of people are saying the era of Ramaphosa is over. He is indecisive. Where does he want to go? He tries to please everybody. And if we look at these results, it almost says that President Ramaphosa is the only person that can fix things in this country. We need strong leadership. If we look at the distance between Ramaphosa's ratings and the ratings for other political leaders, so that's the first thing. And I think the second thing that South Africans are saying to him is, get a grip and do the things you need to do. Because the ANC, as we see, 54% of South Africans is saying the ANC is not quite sure about the future because of leadership issues. And the worst is, 52% of ANC supporters agree with that. So it's not only other people, it's also ANC supporters that are saying the ANC goes in too many different directions.
Well, I'm just going to recall a graphic that was on air just now, which looks at that ratings over time graphic that looks at on a scale of 1 to 5. I mean, he's got a rating, a 5.1. He got a 5.1 rating in November 2014, and that rising steadily with 1 or 2 dips, and then it's now standing well. At least I mean this year in May, it was at 7.3. Unpack that for us.
Yeah, if we see November 2014, it was just after he became the deputy president of the country. We can see people were thinking highly of him, but not much over the 5 out of 10 branch, you know, where around about, he wasn't doing anything much. He wasn't making statements himself. He was the man in the background during that time. Number two. And we can see since last year, May,
but before we get to last year, May, let's just stay with, you know, the 4.8 going up 5.4 and going back to 4.9. What is that telling us about how people saw him? In other words, he came, there was this big hope that even though he was number 2, he could do a lot more than perhaps he has done.
Some critique, some things he did right, you know, they were not sure about where he is, and that is showing with this scale going like this. It's no big changes, little changes over 6 months' time. It is showing people are not too sure of where he is. But then, as I said, if we look at May 2017, it was still at 5.3. So last year, May, it became clear that he will be a contender for the post of president of the country.
And hope was renewed.
And you can see that we're going immediately to 6.1, November last year. That was still at the height of the fight between him and Nkosazana Zuma about who would be the new president of the ANC. And now he basically gets a vote of confidence, 7.3 out of 10.
And what's particularly interesting for me, picking up on that 7.3, is that his rating now among political party supporters across the board.
Yeah. This is very interesting.
Yes.
If we look at his rating amongst ANC supporters, he gets an 8.2 under ANC supporters.
Which is not unusual, because for every leader, the leader usually gets more from their own supporters.
Except that Jacob Zuma. The last time we saw an 8.2 from ANC supporters for an ANC leader was in the beginning of Thabo Mbeki's presidency and obviously during Nelson Mandela's presidency. So this is a high rating from the ANC. And we can also see that DA supporters rate Mmusi Maimane highly, obviously, and EFF supporters rate Julius Malema highly, also obviously. But if we look at how DA supporters and EFF supporters rate Cyril Ramaphosa, both those groups give him more than 5 out of 10. And that's coming back to what I said in the beginning. A president is not only doing things for his own party, he needs support, or at least goodwill from supporters of other parties. And if you look at these results, he almost has a goodwill currency. He has some goodwill in the bank, almost, from South Africans. And that comes back to what I'm saying. South Africans are saying to him, take the bull by its horns and do something.
Be a lot more decisive than we think you've been up until now. Now, overall, what is this poll telling us about South Africa today that we didn't know last year this time?
I think last year this time we were in a much worse position than we are now. Our economy is still rather shaky, and people will tell you that. They are not sure about things. And one of the things that they say is that they thought President Ramaphosa would take a stronger stand on the economy. On the other hand, we were not sure who would be our next president. A lot of people were fearing that if it is Dr. Nkosazana Zuma, it will be more of the Zuma leadership. A lot of people didn't really want that. Now people are sure it's the Ramaphosa leadership. But we are still in a very uncertain position because of this issue in the ANC. Where's the party going? Is Ramaphosa strong enough? Can he play his own part? What is his own part? You know, how much about himself is he communicating, about his vision? Is he communicating to South Africans? So I think those uncertainties are still there. But the thing that's different, we're in a much better position in terms of goodwill and where the country is going than we were last year this time.
What is this saying to and about the rest of the political leaders, in particular leaders of opposition parties, given that we're only months to an election?
I think what it says to other political party leaders is that, you know, a lot of posturing and those things will not really bring you much money into the pocket, or much supporters rather, let's put it that way. If we look at the results, in all the provinces, President Ramaphosa scores the highest of all the political leaders, even in the Western Cape. Mmusi Maimane is the second-rated one in the Western Cape after President Ramaphosa. So what it is saying to other political leaders is pull up your socks. Don't just play the game. Show people that you care about the people and not only about your own political future.
Let's just squeeze in one more question, an issue that I'm sure is in the minds of many of our viewers as they watch you and me talking right now. How was this poll conducted, and how credible is it?
It was conducted face-to-face in the homes and in the home languages of the respondents. As you mentioned, more than 3,600 South Africans who are older than 18 years old were interviewed. It was random selection. What that basically means is that every adult in the country had a chance to be selected. So the methodology is really very scientific. It is representative of South Africans. It is probably the most credible thing at the moment that I can offer you and say this is how South Africans think and feel.
Okay, we'll see. I'm sure it's going to get a lot of people talking. Well, approval ratings for Cyril Ramaphosa have gone up. What does that mean? We'll try to explore that issue and several others as we continue to unpack the outcomes of this poll that was conducted by IPSOS Makino. Mara Harris, thank you very much for